Hey everybody, we are almost through with earnings season for the fourth quarter of 2024. It's been a long earnings season, as is typical for the one that happens in the beginning of the year, as companies are announcing not only their fourth quarter, but their full year results as well. We are going to dive into one of my biggest surprises of earnings season in a positive way, Pinterest, ticker symbol PINS. Before we do, please take a minute and check out the link you see on your screen right now, fool.com/Frankel. Get the top 10 stocks to buy right now from the Motley Fool. It is the best way to support this work I'm doing on YouTube. Again, fool.com/Frankel, and stay tuned to the end of this video for a special message from the Motley Fool. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quick. So let's start here. First of all, revenue was just off the charts good. This was a lot better than investors thought it was going to be. It represents a nice acceleration over the same quarter last year. You can see right here, last year, Pinterest revenue went up by 12% year over year. This year, that accelerated to 18 in the fourth quarter, which the fourth quarter, you can see the two bars are higher than the others because it's the seasonally strong quarter. Advertisers spend a lot of money on social media advertising in the fourth quarter because of the holiday shopping season. So you can see globally, 18% growth year over year. The strongest growth, and this is very significant, you'll see why in just a minute, the strongest growth was in Europe and in the rest of the world, so outside of the US. And that is significant because that's where most of Pinterest users are. You can see Pinterest user base grew by 11% year over year. That comes on top of 11% growth in 2023. And that's significant for a couple of reasons. Number one, obviously, you want more users. More users generate more revenue for the business. But it wasn't that long ago where Pinterest growth, like most social media platforms, had kind of stagnated in the COVID pandemic, or as the COVID pandemic came to an end. And now management has done a great job of kind of reinvigorating revenue growth or user growth. That is the highest user count they've ever had, 553 million monthly active users. And as you can see here, and this is what I was talking about with the international users, out of that 553 million, only about 100 million are in the US and Canada. All the rest of them are international. About 145 million in Europe, and over 300 million of Pinterest users are in that rest of the world category. And that's where we saw the fastest growth, 15% year over year in that area. So breaking all that down, the real reason that's significant is because of monetization. Monetization for Pinterest has been really good in the US and Canada. Unfortunately, that's less than 20% of its user base. You can see in the US and Canada, the average Pinterest user generated $9 in revenue for the platform in the fourth quarter. And that is a long way ahead of the $1.38 average revenue for a European user, and way ahead of the 19 cents per share the average user outside of the US and Canada and Europe generated. In other words, the average user in the rest of the world segment, which makes up the majority of Pinterest user base, the average person is generating roughly 2% of what the average US and Canada user is generating. But the good news is, I don't want to say the gap is starting to narrow because it's still a very, very wide gap, but the biggest growth in monetization has been in that crucial rest of the world category. That's up 24% year over year. It's never been at that 19 cent level before, so that's definitely a positive sign. I'm hoping they can keep that momentum going for a few more years and really start to narrow the gap. That would be massive for Pinterest's bottom line. So all in all, these numbers were generally better than the market expected, both in terms of revenue, in terms of user base, in terms of profitability. And Pinterest, speaking of profitability, the reason that that was strong is Pinterest is doing a good job of keeping expenses in check. You can see the cost of Pinterest revenue as a percent of revenue. This is a good expense metric. In dollar amount, the expenses rose year over year, but as a percentage of the revenue Pinterest is bringing in, it has actually declined significantly. And in most categories, that's the case. Everything but R&D revenue is lower than it was a year ago. So when you're growing revenue faster than you're growing expenses, it's a great recipe for outperformance when it comes to profits. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. This is Pinterest adjusted EBITDA, which is a good metric. It's a metric of profitability that does not take into account things like stock-based compensation and other things that are reflected in the GAAP net income numbers that aren't actual cash expenses. So if you look at this chart, the kind of significant things to note is Pinterest adjusted EBITDA margin went from 38% a year ago. Again, the fourth quarter is seasonally strong, so it was really good then, but it's 3 percentage points better now. And it continues to climb throughout the year, really strong margins, strong profitability. And you can see in free cash flow, it's the same story. Free cash flow is more than double what it was 2 years ago. I know this is small print, so I'm just going to read these numbers. Free cash flow in 2022 was about $440 million. In 2023, it was about $605 million. And in 2024, it was $940 million. That is significant free cash flow growth. Gives the company a lot more financial flexibility to reinvest in the business, to build out its AI capabilities, which is a big focus of management right now. And it is just, everything's moving in the right direction. I'm very happy with this quarter. Pinterest management has done a great job of executing on its strategy for investors. You should stop my share right here. So I'm happy. I think that the roughly 25% gain after earnings was well deserved. I think it was well justified by these numbers. Going forward, I'm going to be definitely keeping an eye on the profitability metrics. I'd love to see that user base keep growing. And I really think the key to Pinterest really being a very outperforming stock, like a multi-bagger from here, will be that international user base and whether Pinterest can really do a great job of monetizing that or not. So that's what I'll be watching as we go through 2025. Let me know what you thought about Pinterest quarter, if you're a believer in the stock or if you think it's one you should stay away from. Full disclosure, Pinterest is one of my larger investments, and I plan to keep it that way. So I'll do my best to respond to any comments individually. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. The Motley Fool is a company that provides investing insight and stock recommendations for investors of all skill sets and risk levels. You all know how much I love researching new stocks and trying to find the next best investments. So I'm proud to partner with The Motley Fool to bring you 10 stock picks from their popular product, Stock Advisor. Stock Advisor has beaten the market more than 5 times. Go to fool.com/Frankel to get your 10 stock picks now. The Motley Fool Stock Advisor returns are 914% as of January 7th, 2025, and are measured against the S&P 500 returns of 174% as of January 7th, 2025.